"What's your best? I paid for this, so I'm keeping it" moment. The divorce papers arrived on a Tuesday. I was sitting in my home office, surrounded by my signed jersey collection, 23 years of careful collecting, every piece authenticated and displayed in custom frames. My wife had always hated them. "Sports memorabilia is just grown men playing with toys," she'd say whenever friends admired my collection. The papers cited irreconcilable differences, but I knew the real reason. She'd been having an affair with her yoga instructor for 8 months. I'd hired a private investigator after finding suspicious charges on our credit card, hotel rooms during her supposed girls' weekends. 3 days later, her lawyer called. "My client is entitled to half of all marital assets," he said, "including your sports collection." I laughed. Actually laughed. "Those jerseys are mine. I bought every single one before we got married. Doesn't matter. They've appreciated in value during the marriage. She's entitled to half their current worth, approximately $340,000. My blood ran cold. That collection represented my entire adult life. The 1986 Flutie jersey I'd saved 3 months for in college. The Brady Super Bowl jersey I'd bought the day after we won. The Bird jersey my dad gave me before he died. "She can have the house, the cars, even my retirement account," I told him. "But she's not touching my jerseys. Then you'll lose everything in court," he replied. That night, I sat in my office staring at my collection. Each jersey told a story, not just of the players, but of my life. The Orr jersey from when I got my first promotion. The Bird jersey from Dad's final Christmas. The Patriots collection I'd built during our championship runs. I called my buddy Trevor, who owned a sports memorabilia shop. "I need a favor," I said. "A big one." The next morning, I started my plan. First, I carefully removed every jersey from its frame and photographed them from every angle. Then I drove to Trevor's shop with a box containing something that would change everything. "You sure about this?" Trevor asked, examining my jerseys. "Positive. She wants to play games? I'll show her how games are really played." I spent the next week executing my strategy. By the time her lawyer filed the motion to seize my collection, everything was already in motion. The court hearing was scheduled for the following Monday. My wife sat across from me, smug confidence radiating from her designer suit. She'd already picked out which jerseys she wanted to sell first. "Your Honor," her lawyer began, "my client is entitled to half the value of the defendant's sports memorabilia collection, valued at $340,000. The judge looked at me. "How do you respond?" I stood up, reached into my briefcase, and pulled out a folder thick with documentation. "Your Honor, I'd like to present evidence that completely changes the nature of this case." Her lawyer's face dropped. "What evidence?" the judge asked. I opened the folder and spread dozens of receipts across the table. "These are purchase receipts for 37 high-quality replica jerseys, purchased over the past 10 days from various online retailers. Total cost, $2,147. The courtroom went silent. "I don't understand," the judge said. I smiled for the first time in months. "Your Honor, my wife is absolutely correct that she's entitled to half of our marital assets. The problem is she's been living in our house for 8 years, looking at my jersey collection every single day, and she never bothered to actually examine what she was looking at." I pulled out a magnifying glass and handed it to the judge, along with one of the jerseys from evidence. "If you look closely at the signature on this Tom Brady jersey, you'll notice something interesting." The judge examined it carefully, then looked up at me with curiosity. "The signature appears to be printed, not handwritten." "Exactly. Because it is printed. This is a replica jersey with a printed facsimile signature. Every single jersey in that collection is a replica worth maybe $20 each." My wife shot to her feet. "That's impossible. I've seen those jerseys for years. They're in expensive frames with certificates." "You've seen replica jerseys in expensive frames with replica certificates," I corrected. "The frames cost more than the jerseys." Her lawyer was frantically shuffling through papers. "Your Honor, our appraiser valued this collection at over $300,000. "Based on what information?" I asked. "Did your appraiser physically examine the jerseys? Or did they just take my wife's word that they were authentic?" The silence stretched. We provided photos and descriptions," the lawyer admitted. I handed the judge another folder. "These are the authentication documents for my real jersey collection. As you can see, every authentic piece was purchased before my marriage and has been stored in a climate-controlled facility for the past 8 years. The judge flipped through the papers, his eyebrows rising with each page. "Mr. Richardson, are you telling this court that your wife lived with replica jerseys for 8 years and never knew the difference?" "That's exactly what I'm telling you, Your Honor. My real collection has been in storage since 2015. What she saw every day were replicas I hung up to. Well, to protect the real ones from exactly this situation." My wife's face had gone pale. You've been lying to me for 8 years?" "No," I said calmly. "I never claimed those were the real jerseys. You just assumed they were. Remember when I said I was getting them properly preserved? I meant in storage. The ones on display were placeholders." Her lawyer was scrambling. "Your Honor, this seems like fraud. He deliberately deceived my client about the value of assets in their home." "Actually," I replied, pulling out yet another document, "I was completely transparent. This is a copy of our household insurance policy, filed jointly every year. Notice how there's no coverage for valuable collectibles? That's because I specifically excluded them, since they weren't in the house." The judge reviewed the insurance documents. "It appears Mr. Richardson has been consistent in his documentation. Mrs. Richardson, did you review these insurance policies when you signed them?" My wife looked like she wanted to disappear. I don't read the insurance papers. I just sign where he tells me to. So you signed legal documents stating there were no valuable collectibles in your home, while simultaneously believing there were valuable collectibles in your home? The judge's tone suggested he was losing patience. I pulled out my phone and showed the court a video. This is security footage from Secure Store facility, dated 3 days ago. As you can see, I'm accessing my storage unit and removing my authentic jersey collection. The video showed me carefully handling truly spectacular jerseys, the real deals, with obvious differences in quality, materials, and signatures. Your Honor, I continued, I'd like to present Exhibit F. I opened a large box and carefully removed the authentic Tom Brady Super Bowl jersey. The difference was immediately apparent. The authentic jersey practically glowed compared to the replica. The signature was bold, flowing, obviously handwritten. The materials were completely different, heavier, more luxurious. This is the real Brady jersey, purchased in 2001 for $2,200, now worth approximately $18,000. It's been in climate-controlled storage for 8 years. I placed the replica beside it. This is what my wife saw every day. Purchased on eBay last week for $23. The contrast was stunning. Even someone who knew nothing about sports memorabilia could see the difference. The judge examined both jerseys carefully. The difference is quite obvious when seen side by side. Mrs. Richardson, how do you explain not noticing this discrepancy? My wife was speechless. Her lawyer tried one last desperate move. Your Honor, regardless of the jerseys, my client is still entitled to half of all marital assets acquired during the marriage. Absolutely, I agreed. She's entitled to half of everything we acquired together. Let me present our complete financial picture. I handed the judge a detailed accounting. As you can see, during our 8-year marriage, we acquired the following joint assets. Our house worth $485,000, 2 cars worth $67,000 combined, joint savings account, $23,000, joint investment account, $156,000, furniture and household items, approximately $45,000. The judge nodded. And your separate assets, Mr. Richardson? The jersey collection, valued at $340,000, purchased entirely before marriage. My vintage guitar collection, $89,000, also pre-marriage. And my coin collection, $67,000, inherited from my grandfather before I even met my wife. I pulled out a timeline I'd prepared. Every single high-value item I own was acquired before our marriage or through inheritance. The receipts and documentation prove this conclusively. Her lawyer was desperately flipping through papers. What about appreciation in value? Even if he owned them before marriage, they've increased in worth during the marriage. The judge looked at me expectantly. Your Honor, I'd like to call my expert witness. Trevor walked into the courtroom carrying a thick folder. Trevor Martinez owns Sports Legends memorabilia and is a certified appraiser with the American Society of Appraisers. Trevor was sworn in, and I asked him to explain his findings. I've been tracking Mr. Richardson's collection for 15 years, Trevor testified. I have complete documentation of every purchase, sale, and trade. The current value of his authentic collection is actually lower than what he paid originally. The courtroom murmured. How is that possible? The judge asked. Sports memorabilia is volatile, Trevor explained. Some items appreciate, others depreciate. Mr. Richardson's collection has lost approximately $47,000 in value during his marriage. I smiled at my wife. So even if you were entitled to appreciation, which you're not since these are premarital assets, you'd actually owe me money. The judge had heard enough. Based on the evidence presented, I find that Mr. Richardson's memorabilia collection consists entirely of premarital assets. Mrs. Richardson is entitled to no portion of these items. But my wife wasn't finished. Fine, she snapped, but I want half the house, and I'm keeping my car, and I want alimony. About that, I said, pulling out another folder. What now? Her lawyer asked wearily. I have some additional evidence regarding my wife's employment status. I handed documents to the judge. For the past 2 years, my wife has been running an unlicensed massage therapy business out of our home. These are bank records showing deposits from clients, none of which were reported on our tax returns. My wife's eyes went wide. According to these records, she's made approximately $67,000 in unreported income. She's been evading taxes while claiming to be unemployed and dependent on me. The judge examined the bank statements. Mrs. Richardson, can you explain these deposits? Those are gifts from friends, she stammered. Gifts of exactly $80 every Tuesday and Thursday for 2 years? I asked. From the same 15 people? People who happen to be listed on your phone as clients? I pulled out printed text messages. These are messages from your phone, discussing appointment times, rates, and services. You've been running a business while claiming unemployment. Her lawyer looked like he wanted to crawl under the table. Your Honor, we weren't aware of any business income. Because she never told you, I said. Just like she never told the IRS. The judge was clearly annoyed. Mrs. Richardson, operating an unlicensed business and evading taxes are serious matters. Are you claiming these deposits are legitimate unreported business income? My wife realized she was trapped. Admitting the income meant admitting tax evasion. Denying it meant perjury. I want to speak to my lawyer privately. We'll take a 15-minute recess, the judge declared. During the break, I watched my wife and her lawyer have an intense, whispered conversation. She kept shaking her head, then nodding, then shaking her head again. When court resumed, her lawyer stood. Your Honor, my client would like to amend her financial disclosure. I bet she would, I muttered. Mrs. Richardson acknowledges that she has received income that was not previously disclosed. She estimates approximately $45,000 over 2 years. I have bank records showing $67,000, I corrected. The judge looked stern. Mrs. Richardson, perjury is a felony. How much unreported income did you receive? My wife was crying now. About $67,000, she whispered. And you were planning to claim unemployment and seek alimony while hiding this income? Yes. The judge made notes, clearly unimpressed. Let's discuss asset division. Mr. Richardson, what's your proposal? Your Honor, based on my wife's undisclosed income and tax evasion, I believe she's forfeited her right to alimony. I propose we divide only legitimate marital assets. I presented my final document. The house has $285,000 in equity. She can have $142,500. Her half. The cars, she keeps hers, I keep mine. Joint account split equally. But I keep all premarital assets, and there's no alimony due to her fraud. And the unreported income? The judge asked. She can keep it, but she'll need to pay taxes on it and probably penalties. Her lawyer was frantically calculating. Your Honor, the tax implications alone could cost my client $25,000 in penalties and interest. That's her problem, I said. She created this mess by lying for 2 years. The judge reviewed everything one final time. Here's my ruling. Mr. Richardson retains all premarital assets, including his memorabilia collection. Marital assets will be divided equally. Mrs. Richardson is entitled to no alimony due to her material misrepresentation of income. Both parties are responsible for their own attorney fees. As we left the courthouse, my wife caught up with me in the parking lot. You planned this whole thing, she accused. No, I replied. I prepared for this whole thing. There's a difference. You humiliated me in there. You humiliated yourself. I just documented it. She got in her car and drove away. I never saw her again. That evening I drove to the storage facility and loaded my real jersey collection into my truck. When I got home, to my house, which I'd bought before we met, I carefully rehung each authentic piece. The bird jersey went back in its place of honor above my desk. The Brady collection filled the wall by the window. The Orr jersey, my first major purchase, went where it belonged. As I hung the last frame, my phone buzzed. A text from Trevor. Saw the news report about your divorce. You're becoming famous. Local man outsmarts ex-wife with replica jerseys. 3 collectors have already called asking if you want to sell anything. I looked around my office, at my real collection displayed properly for the first time in 8 years. I texted back, not selling. I paid for this, so I'm keeping it. 6 months later, I received a letter from the IRS. My ex-wife was being audited for unreported income. They'd found additional evidence of cash payments and were investigating potential fraud charges. I didn't feel sorry for her. A year later, Trevor called with an interesting offer. Remember that Brady Super Bowl jersey? A collector in California wants to buy it for $28,000. Your collection has apparently appreciated significantly since the divorce publicity. Not interested, I told him. Come on, man. $28,000 for something you paid $2,200 for? Trevor, let me explain something. Those jerseys aren't investments. They're not commodities. They're pieces of my life. I walked into my office and looked at the Brady jersey. This jersey represents the night I watched the Patriots win their first Super Bowl in my dad's basement, 2 months before he died. He was so excited he cried during the trophy ceremony. I touched the frame. The bird jersey was Dad's gift to me when I graduated college. He saved for months to buy it. Said every man needs something that connects him to his heroes. I get it, Trevor said softly. The Orr jersey was the first thing I ever bought with my own money from my first real job. I ate ramen for 3 months to afford it. I sat down and really looked at my collection. When I put these in storage to protect them from my wife, I lost part of myself. I forgot why I collected them in the first place. So you're keeping everything? Everything. She wanted to take them because they were valuable. But their value isn't in money, it's in memory. 2 years later, I remarried. Her name is Claire, and she's nothing like my ex-wife. She actually likes sports and understands why the collection matters. When we got engaged, she asked if I wanted to put the jerseys back in storage. Why would I do that? I asked. To protect them, she said, in case things don't work out. I kissed her forehead. Claire, if I can't trust you with my jerseys, I can't trust you with my heart. She smiled. Can I ask you something? How did you know to switch them to replicas before your divorce? I didn't switch them before the divorce, I explained. I switched them 8 years ago, right after we got married. She looked confused. My ex-wife made it clear from day one that she hated my collection. She'd make snide comments about grown men and their toys. She'd suggest selling pieces whenever money was tight. She'd roll her eyes when friends admired them. So you protected them immediately? I protected them, but not just from her. I protected them from myself. I showed Claire the storage facility receipt, dated 3 weeks after my wedding. I realized that living with someone who couldn't understand why these mattered to me was slowly killing my love for them. Every time she complained, I enjoyed them a little less. Every eye roll made me feel foolish for caring. That's heartbreaking, Claire said. It was. So I preserved them somewhere safe and put up replicas. That way her negativity couldn't touch the real thing. And when you suspected she might divorce you, I didn't suspect anything. I just knew that someday, somehow, she'd try to take them. People who don't understand the value of something always assume it's about money. Claire walked over to the Brady jersey and studied it carefully. The signature really is beautiful. You can tell it's handwritten. You can tell because you're looking. She never looked. She saw expensive frames and assumed expensive contents. What about the appraisal? How did that work? I laughed. Her lawyer hired an appraiser who valued the collection based on photos and her descriptions. My ex-wife told them I owned authentic signed jerseys from famous players. The appraiser never actually examined anything. That seems like malpractice. It's lazy, but not illegal. Most people assume their spouse isn't lying about basic facts. Claire sat down in my office chair, looking around at the collection. You know what I love about this story? What? You didn't set out to deceive her. You set out to protect something you loved. The deception was just a side effect. She was right. I hadn't planned some elaborate revenge scheme. I'd simply refused to let someone who didn't value my passions slowly destroy them. Can I tell you something? Claire asked. Of course, I would have done the same thing. 3 years into our marriage, Claire surprised me with something incredible. Close your eyes, she said, leading me into my office. When I opened them, there was a new frame on the wall. Inside was a signed Larry Bird jersey. Not just any jersey, but one from his final game. How did you? Trevor helped me track it down. It's authenticated, documented, everything. I was speechless. But that's not the best part, she continued. She handed me the receipt. I bought it with money I saved by eating lunch at home for 8 months, just like you did with your first jersey. I looked at her. This woman who understood that the sacrifice was part of the value. Why? I asked. Because I wanted to add to your collection the right way. With intention, with sacrifice, with love. That night, as we hung the new jersey next to the others, Claire asked me something that made me think. Do you ever regret not just selling the whole collection during the divorce? You could have taken the money and started over. I considered her question seriously. You know what? No. Because selling them would have meant she won. Not the divorce. She was welcome to that. But she would have succeeded in making me believe they were just things. But they are things, Claire pointed out. No, they're connections. To my dad, to my memories, to who I was before I met her. She wanted to reduce them to dollar signs. I looked around the room at my collection, now expanded with Claire's thoughtful addition. When I see these jerseys, I don't see money. I see my father crying during that Super Bowl. I see myself as a broke college kid, choosing between food and that Flutie jersey. I see the pride in Dad's eyes when he gave me the Bird jersey. And now? Now I see you understanding why they matter. I see someone who gets that the value isn't in what they're worth, but in what they represent. Claire smiled. So your best I paid for this, so I'm keeping it moment wasn't about the money at all. Exactly. It was about refusing to let someone who never understood their value take them away from someone who did. 5 years later, my ex-wife contacted me through Facebook. She'd apparently seen an article about my collection in Sports Illustrated. Apparently, the divorce story had made me somewhat famous in collector circles. Her message was brief. I saw the article. Those jerseys are worth even more now. I still think I deserved half. I showed Claire the message. Are you going to respond? She asked. I thought about it for a moment, then typed back. You're absolutely right. They're worth more now, but not in dollars. They're worth more because they're hanging on the wall of someone who loves them, instead of sitting in storage waiting to be sold by someone who never understood them. I paused, then added, I paid for this life, so I'm keeping it. I never heard from her again. Today, my collection includes 43 pieces. Each one has a story. Each one represents a moment, a memory, a connection to something bigger than myself. People ask me all the time if I'd ever sell any of them. The answer is always the same. I paid for this, so I'm keeping it. But what they don't understand is that this isn't just the jerseys. It's the memories. It's the connection to my father. It's the principle that some things aren't commodities. It's the lesson that protecting what you love sometimes means being smarter than those who would take it away. And most importantly, it's the knowledge that when someone shows you who they are, you should believe them and plan accordingly. My ex-wife showed me she didn't value what I valued, so I made sure she couldn't destroy what mattered to me. Claire shows me every day that she understands what matters. That's why she gets to see the real collection. That's why she gets to add to it. That's why she gets to share in the stories each piece represents. Because when you find someone who values what you value, you don't hide the good stuff in storage. You hang it on the wall where you can both enjoy it. And you never, ever let anyone convince you that love can be measured in dollars. Because some things are priceless, not because of what they cost, but because of what they mean. And those things are worth protecting, no matter what it takes.